They don't want you to know this. While the world was watching missiles light up the sky, while headlines screamed war, destruction, and chaos, something quieter, something far more powerful was happening behind closed doors, not in Washington, not in Tehran, but in Islamabad. At a moment when the region stood on the edge of collapse, when one wrong move could have triggered a global catastrophe, one nation stepped into the fire, not with weapons, but with words. Pakistan. Behind the scenes, urgent calls were being made. Messages were being carried between enemies who refused to speak directly. Deadlocked negotiations, on the verge of complete failure, were suddenly pulled back from the edge. This wasn't luck. This wasn't coincidence. This was strategy. This was timing. This was influence. Because when global powers refused to trust each other, they trusted a bridge, and that bridge may have just stopped a war. But here's the real question. Was Pakistan just a messenger, or was it the hidden force that changed the outcome of history? When the world was heading to war, most men didn't see strategy. They felt pressure. Pressure to react. Pressure to choose sides. Pressure to prove strength in the loudest, fastest way possible. Because from a man's perspective, conflict often feels like a test of identity. If something threatens stability, the instinct is to confront it head on, to act, to show force. And yet, in that exact moment, the most dangerous thing a man can do is move without understanding what's truly at stake. When women look at the same moment, they often see something deeper than the surface tension. They sense the cost of escalation, the families, the futures, the silence that follows destruction. Where men are conditioned to respond, women are wired to read between the lines. And that contrast creates a powerful truth. Real strength is not always in reaction, but in restraint. Not in proving power, but in protecting what power is supposed to serve. When Pakistan stepped into that space, it didn't act like a warrior trying to win a fight. It acted like a presence trying to prevent one. It understood something most don't. That leadership isn't about being seen as strong, it's about being trusted when everything is breaking apart. The power of a nation that doesn't pick sides begins with a rare kind of discipline. The ability to stand in tension without needing to dominate it. For many men, neutrality can feel like weakness, like stepping back means losing control or respect. Because from a man's psychological lens, value is often tied to action, to taking a stand, to proving loyalty through visible alignment. But the deeper truth is this: it takes far more strength to hold the line than to cross it too quickly. The power of a nation that builds bridges comes from understanding what most overlook. That trust is not demanded. It is earned in silence. Women often recognize this instinctively. They see connection where men see conflict. They understand that influence grows not from force, but from presence. Where men may rush to solve, women often pause to understand, creating space where both sides feel heard without feeling threatened. The power of Pakistan in that moment wasn't in choosing who was right. It was in becoming the one both sides could turn to. It reflected a balance of masculine decisiveness and feminine awareness, showing that real leadership isn't about standing above others, but standing between them without breaking under the weight. The most important moves happen in silence, because real power doesn't need to announce itself. For many men, silence can feel uncomfortable, even threatening, because it removes the opportunity to prove control through action or words. A man is often conditioned to equate visibility with strength, to believe that if no one sees the move, it doesn't count. But in moments of high tension, the loudest reaction is rarely the wisest one. and the need to be seen can become the very thing that leads to collapse. The most important moves happen in silence because understanding is built in the spaces where noise fades. Women tend to recognize this space more naturally, reading tone, timing, and intention beneath what is said. Where men may focus on solving the visible problem, women often sense the invisible dynamics shaping it. That awareness allows for a different kind of influence, one that doesn't force outcomes, but guides them by aligning emotions, trust, and timing. The most important moves happen in silence because that is where true control exists, not in dominating the moment, but in shaping it without resistance. When Pakistan operated behind the scenes, it wasn't avoiding action. It was choosing precision over performance, influence over attention. Trust is the currency that stopped a conflict because when everything else fails, power, pressure, position, what remains is belief. For many men, trust is often treated like a transaction, earned through strength, proven through dominance, maintained through control. A man is taught that if he shows too much vulnerability, he risks losing authority. So, in moments of tension, the instinct is to tighten the grip, to rely on force rather than faith. But the reality is, force may win attention, yet it rarely wins trust. Trust is the currency that stopped a conflict because it speaks a language beyond logic. Women tend to understand this on a deeper emotional level, recognizing that trust is built in consistency, in empathy, in the subtle signals that say you are safe here. Where men may try to establish order through connection, women often nurture connection through presence. And in high-stakes situations, that connection becomes the bridge where real dialogue can finally exist without fear. Trust is the currency that stopped a conflict because it allowed Pakistan to stand in a space no one else could occupy. It wasn't the loudest voice, nor the most powerful force, but it became the most reliable one balancing strength with understanding, control with compassion, creating a channel where both sides could lower their guard without feeling like they were losing ground. The moment diplomacy defeated destruction was not loud, not dramatic, and not visible to the world watching from the outside. For many men, victory is often imagined as something explosive, something undeniable, something that proves dominance in a single decisive act. Because from a man's psychological lens, conflict feels like a battlefield where strength must be demonstrated, not negotiated. And yet, in that critical moment, the greatest act of strength was not to strike, but to pause, to listen, to hold back when every instinct demanded action. The moment diplomacy defeated destruction was shaped by a different kind of awareness, one that often aligns with how women process conflict. Women tend to look beyond the immediate clash and into the consequences that ripple outward. They sense the human cost before it happens, the silence that follows chaos, the absence left behind. Where men may feel the urge to resolve tension quickly, women often absorb it, understand it, and transform it into something that can be navigated rather than destroyed. The moment diplomacy defeated destruction came when Pakistan chose to operate in that balance between strength and sensitivity. It didn't reject power, it redefined it. It understood that true influence isn't about overpowering the other side, but about creating a space where her side feels overpowered. In that space, guarded minds begin to open, rigid positions begin to soften. And the momentum of conflict quietly begins to shift away from destruction and towards something far more controlled. History isn't just written by warriors, it's written by those who understand when not to fight. For many men, the idea of legacy is deeply tied to conquest, to visible victories, to moments where strength is proven in front of the world. A man grows up believing that to be remembered, he must win battles, dominate opposition, and leave behind evidence of power. But what often goes unseen is that the greatest victories are not the ones fought in the open. They are the ones prevented before they ever begin. History isn't just written by warriors, it's shaped by those who can hold tension without breaking under it. Women often approach conflict with a different kind of intelligence, one that values preservation over destruction. They see relationships where others see rivalries, futures where others see threats. Where men may feel compelled to act quickly to assert control, women tend to create space, allowing emotion, logic, and timing to align. That space becomes the environment where transformation is possible, where outcomes are not forced, but guided. History isn't just written by warriors, it's defined by negotiators who carry the weight of both sides without becoming either. Pakistan, in that critical moment, didn't step in as a fighter seeking recognition. It stepped in as a stabilizer, understanding that real influence comes from being trusted by opposing forces at the same time. It balanced the masculine drive for decisive action with the feminine capacity for empathy and awareness, creating a pathway where dialogue could exist without ego taking control. History isn't just written by warriors, it's remembered through the moments where destruction was. Possible, but never realized. And in those moments, the negotiator becomes the unseen author, shaping outcomes not through force, but through the quiet mastery of human psychology, timing, and trust.